Hi, welcome back, guys. This is your friend the Momo Fanfics back with the amazing fanfiction. This is series of What If Deku Had Gojo Quirky? In a world full of people with quirks, I was born quirkless. I was part of the unlucky 20%. I was told to give it up and that I'd never make it, and part of me almost caved in. But when I watched All Might saving people with that unbreakable smile over and over again, I couldn't just stop. I didn't want to. So I did what I could. I studied up on all sorts of heroes, aiming to become the first quirkless student at UA, the same school my hero went to. I didn't let Kakin and his bullying get to me, no matter how bad it got. First, let me tell you about the day I stumbled upon the number one hero, All Might. Shoe size is 10-year-old Izuku knelt down, scaling the imprint with a measuring tape. 26.5 centimeters. He scribbled the information down in his notebook. Because of the quirk of the molten hero, Magma, the man's footprint was imprinted into the cement. A fight between him and a villain had broken out a few weeks ago, and Izuku was there to gather information on it. Damn it. That poisonous bastard really got me. Toshinori Yagi thought to himself as he staggered through the city of Musutafu. In the alleyway behind Izuku, a battered-up All Might suddenly walked out, coughing. They were both silent for a moment as their eyes met, wide with surprise. "What are you? All Might?" Izuku dropped his notebook. You're All Might? Oh my god, I don't want to draw a crowd." The blond man raised a finger to his lips. "Oh, sorry. I've just always wanted to meet you." Toshinori wasn't sure how to get the boy away from the scene before Toxic Cloud, the name of the poisonous gas villain, showed up again. Or perhaps worse, if he accidentally reverted back to his other form. "Ooh, do you want an autograph? I don't have much time." Yes, absolutely." All Might signed his name in Izuku's notebook, who then proceeded to handle the object like a delicate bomb. "I'm going to make this my family heirloom." "All right, well, I have to go now, so." "Wait, I have a question for you." Toshinori coughed into his fist again. "I'm really sorry, but if I don't..." He was suddenly engulfed smoke, inciting a few coughs from both of them. Once it cleared, Izuku's jaw dropped. The tall, burly All Might had been replaced with the skinny, zombie-like Toshinori Yagi. "What UI?" Toshinori sighed. "Shit. There goes another person who knows about my other form. You can't tell anyone about this, okay?" Izuku gaped at him for a few more moments before straightening. I won't. But you. What happened? You are All Might, right?" Toshinori went on to explain his condition to the boy, all while keeping an eye out for Toxic Cloud. Izuku swallowed nervously. This is hard to absorb, but he's still the symbol of peace, even if he can only maintain it for 3 hours. I'm going to have to trust this young boy to keep my secret. Not that I have much of a choice. Did you have something you wanted to ask me? Oh, right. The butterflies in his stomach went even crazier as he summoned the nerve to ask his role model the question he'd been waiting to ask for over 6 years. Do you think that even a quirkless person like me can become a hero? He's quirkless, just like... Toshinori felt bad for the boy as he looked up at him with hopeful green eyes. I can't let him lead a meaningless life. If this boy seriously tries to become a pro hero, he won't make it. That's the sad truth of this world. Young boy, without a quirk, you're better off becoming a police officer if you want to help people. I cannot simply say that one can become a hero, even without power. I'm sorry. But you also have to consider what's realistic." After hearing those words, something cracked inside of Midoriya. Throughout the years, it stayed broken, even after he met Gojo Satoru. Or rather, the spirit of Gojo Satoru. That night, Midoriya lied awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Right. I should have known. I don't have a quirk. There's nothing special about me. How could I? Tears welled up in his eyes. How could I ever even dream of being a hero? By the time he fell asleep, it was almost morning. This boy's spirit, it's so bright. How unusual. It reminds me of Yuuji. Gojo Satoru grinned, placing a finger to his chin. Maybe he's the one. Midoriya suddenly gasped, sitting up. Where am I? He stood up, looking around the strange place. He couldn't quite describe it. It was like being in a dark, unexplainable wonderland. If it had a crossover with a universe. Despite not being able to see or feel the ground, he could stand upright and walk just fine. What a strange lucid dream. He tried to change the setting, with no luck. I can't wake up either. What a nightmare, he thought as he wandered around. His eyes widened. Oh no, am I in a coma or something? The sudden sound of laughter scared Midoriya to the bone. You're not in a coma, don't worry. A young man suddenly appeared in front of him, wearing a dark leather suit. He had soft-looking stark white hair and unusually bright blue eyes, like all of the morning sky condensed into one point. Midoriya also noted that he was incredibly good-looking, especially with those brilliant eyes of his. For some reason, he felt like the man was much older than he looked. But if he ignored that, he looked to be in his early 20s or so. Who are you? My name is Gojo Satoru. And you? Midoriya Izuku. Are you part of my dream? No. Well, kind of. What do you mean? We're inside of my domain, while in your dream. Like a yolk in an egg. None of our real bodies are here, these are our spiritual manifestations. I don't understand. Is this your quirk? What are your intentions? Are you a villain? Slow down, no. This isn't the effect of a quirk. I don't have one, anyway. My intentions are rather complicated, but I promise they aren't bad. And I'm pretty much the opposite of a villain, if I say so myself. He's quirkless, like me. Then how are you doing this? It all feels way too real to be a simple dream. It's my jujutsu, limitless. An application of it, at least. Jujutsu, like the martial art? Does he do karate? Gojo suppressed another laugh. To put it in very simple terms, they're the quirks of my world. Your world? Yep, I'm not from your world. I came from a completely different universe. Midoriya let out a nervous laugh. A different universe? No way. That's not possible. This has to be some kind of bad joke. Oh, but it is. Izuku, I'm dead. I died a while ago in my world. For reference, I was the strongest. Obviously, I wasn't just gonna go poof with all my abilities. Someone needed to inherit them. To take on the burden of the strongest. Midoriya swallowed. Where is this going? I tried a few promising-looking people. I remember one with a straw hat, one bubbly kid with a fishing pole, and one with ginger hair. Her eyes were green like yours. What are you trying to say? It's your turn, Izuku. I'm seeing if you're worthy or not of inheriting my power. Inheriting your power, that's crazy. I'm not even. You're not even what? Slowly, Midoriya looked down. I'm not even worthy enough for All Might. The #1 hero. I even got to ask him personally, but he was right. Someone like me can't become a hero. Huh? What am I doing? Spilling my life story to this stranger. Gojo leaned down, looking Midoriya in the eye, who was startled by the sudden gesture. Since we're in your head and all, I can see what kind of person you are. And in my book, you're more than worthy. That's coming from the strongest jujutsu sorcerer. Midoriya laughed nervously, though it was more of a miserable one. Me? A hero? It's true that I've always wanted to be one, but I just can't. You're better off picking someone stronger. Gojo-san. I can't even stand up for myself when it comes to Kaken's bullying. How am I supposed to save people if I can't even save myself? What are you talking about, Izuku? You can become a hero. For some reason, Midoriya couldn't bring himself to speak as he absorbed those words. Has anyone ever said that to me before? He was stunned silent for a moment before blushing a bit, momentarily forgetting about his bizarre situation. That's right. Back then, I didn't want my mom to apologize. I wanted to hear those words from her. You really think so? Definitely. I haven't seen a soul as bright as yours in a long time. Oh, thank you, I mean. We're getting off topic. Midoriya straightened, trying to make a more serious face. How can I even trust you? Well, that's up to you. I can't force you to accept my power or anything. But we're practically sharing minds right now. So what do you think? Midoriya sighed and closed his eyes, trying to focus on the other man. He tensed. What are these? Words no, feelings filling up my head. God. Power. Strength. Infinite. Cunning. Bright. Light-hearted. Caring. Midoriya opened his eyes. Inexplicably, he suddenly knew exactly what kind of person Gojo Satoru was. How? I've only known him for like 10 minutes. And yet, well? The man asked. He's been smiling this whole time. He never once frowned or raised his voice. He's so. What's the word? I trust you. So what even is your power? And how do I pass this test you mentioned? Gojo grinned. You already passed. Wait, what? But I didn't even do anything. Let me explain, my pupil. Right now, we're in my domain, unlimited void. Normally, a human being would be frozen in place, unable to move at all. You woke up and walked around like it was nothing. He gaped at him. Moving was the test. Basically, yeah? Midoriya took an experimental step forwards. But this just feels like normal walking. Are you bluffing? Of course not. Want me to kidnap someone to show you? Midoriya's sweat dropped. Ah, no thanks, I'm good. Izuku. Is that? Looks like your mother is trying to wake you up. You have. Gojo checked his non-existent watch. 15 minutes before school starts. Midoriya shot up. What? Oh, Izuku. You hardly ever sleep in, so I thought never mind, school starts in 15 minutes, Inko said, looking at her son worriedly. Mom, I already made some toast downstairs. Hurry up and get changed, she said, leaving the room. Midoriya placed a hand on his forehead, frowning. Oh, it was a dream after all. He sighed, getting out of bed. I should have known. There's no way I would be that lucky, getting powers for free. It wasn't a dream. He dropped his backpack, looking to his right. Gojo Satoru was leaning against the wall, arms crossed. Gojo-san, he looks kind of transparent, he absent-mindedly noted. You better hurry. There's 10 minutes left on the clock. What are you? I have to go. Midoriya grabbed a slice of toast on the way out, barely remembering to put his shoes on. Have a nice day, sweetie. Stay away from villain attacks. Have a nice day, sweetie. Stay away from villain attacks. Gojo imitated. Such a caring mom. Get her something nice for Mother's Day. He floated next to Midoriya, arms behind his head. Gojo-san, are you real? My mom didn't even notice you, Midoriya asked as he ran, attempting to wave a hand through the man's body. His arm went right through. I'm just a spirit. Everything passes through me. And since you're my new host, you're the only one who can see and hear me. Oh, so that's why he looks transparent. Host of my power. Midoriya stopped at a crosswalk, waiting for the walking light to turn green while jogging in place. Gojo hovered upside down. You're gonna be late. Midoriya made a gloomy expression. Don't remind me. This is totally going on my permanent record. Oh, this is the perfect time to test out your new powers. Midoriya nearly tripped on the road. My what? Your powers. Since you passed, I gave you my dormant abilities. So, there's no weird ritual or anything that we have to do. No summoning circles or ancient markings or foreign chants. No. What kind of fantasy series have you been reading? Shadow, wait. Besides that, how do I use them? They came to a stop next to an empty alleyway. Gojo floated down to ground level, standing in front of Midoriya. Listen closely, Izuku. Right now, despite having access to all of my previous abilities, you have no idea what they are, what they do, and how to use them. He held his index finger up. I'll have you know that they are powerful beyond your imagination. If you had full knowledge on how to use them, you might be the most powerful person on this earth. So you have to be incredibly cautious when using them. That's also another reason why I chose you. I had a feeling you would be careful, and that you would only use them for good. So don't pull an Anakin on me and turn to the dark side, okay? I would never. My goal in the first place is to become a hero to help people, Midoriya said, flustered. The most powerful person on Earth. No way. Gojo-san was that strong. Well, that's good to know. Anyway, moving on to your powers, there are two types. Limitless and Six Eyes. I'll teach you about them later. But for now, we just need long-distance teleportation. There's two of them. Midoriya couldn't help but get excited. You can teleport? Among others, yes. It's one of the applications of Limitless, and deals with spatial manipulation. If you train enough, you'll be able to teleport other people too. Basically, just focus on where you want to go, and stay focused on that location. Otherwise, you might end up somewhere completely random. Once, I ended up in the middle of Greece. And if you want it to be somewhere specific, make sure you include that. Otherwise, you might appear in a toilet and stay on the ground unless you want to fall from 400 feet in the air. Gojo gave him a thumbs up. Good luck, Midoriya gulped. All right. He closed his eyes, nervous. Aldera Elementary School. Aldera Elementary School. He pictured the familiar brick walls, the hallways, the wooden doors, not the bathrooms, the dirt pathway, the familiar path to get there. Midoriya opened his eyes upon feeling a strange, light sensation, screaming when he saw nothing but space around him. But no sound came out. A split second later, he felt solid ground again, and looked around to see the pastry shop in front of him. I'm back. Oh, so close. At least you managed to teleport, Gojo said from behind him. Midoriya whipped around. Did you see that? We were just next to the other street. That's teleportation. It might seem like a few moments to us, but to the outside world, it was barely even a second. But this is the pastry shop a few blocks away from my school. You probably lost track of your thoughts. Try again. Midoriya took a deep breath, focusing on the gates right outside of the school. It took a few tries to get it right again, but he went through the weird dark space once more before appearing at the exact place he was thinking of. Thankfully, none of the people or another student, God forbid, walking by saw him. He held his hands up in awe. This is amazing. I have a quirk. He couldn't describe the happiness flowing through him. With this, I can become a hero. Gojo floated in the air, arms crossed. It's actually jujutsu rather than a quirk, but call it whatever you want. Also, isn't that the bell? Midoriya froze before sprinting past the gates. I completely forgot about school. I'm late. Behind him, Gojo began to laugh. I can't believe someone who can teleport is late. I just learned how to, okay? Midoriya protested as he ran upstairs. After school, the two got to know each other more as they chatted on the way home, and Midoriya couldn't help but feel warm. Shortly after reaching his classroom, Midoriya was overtaken by a wave of exhaustion, as if he just ran a marathon. It's a side effect of teleporting, Gojo had explained. The better you get at it, the less exhaustion you'll feel. And thus, he decided not to try teleporting home as to not drain himself. I don't know much about him, but I trust Gojo-san. I have a feeling he's not a bad person. Plus, he gifted me with these amazing abilities, which I can use to become a hero and help people. I must be the luckiest person alive. Welcome home, Izuku. How was school? School was great. I made a friend today. Inko smiled. You made a friend. You'll have to invite them over someday. Uh, yeah, maybe one day. Behind him, Gojo laughed. Tell her I'm right in front of her. Midoriya's sweat dropped. She'll think I'm crazy if I do that. He headed upstairs, Gojo following him while talking excitedly about Zunda and cream-flavored kifuku. Bright. The word is bright. Kind, carefree, friendly, charming. Someone who can attract all kinds of people like a magnet and strike up a conversation about pencils or something and still manage to make it sound interesting. It's almost funny he's basically the opposite of me. Gojo Satoru is bright. What's that? Oh, it's just my homework from last night. Fifth graders are dealing with this stuff already. Man, I hate fractions. They're actually not that bad once you. Bakugo Katsuki suddenly slammed his hand on Midoriya's desk, palm smoking. Kakakin. The papers flew up in the air, falling onto the floor. The blonde looked down at him with an irritated look in his eyes as Midoriya shrank back in fear. Who the hell have you been muttering to this whole time? It's annoying. And no one, just myself. Well then knock it off. It's getting on my nerves. He sauntered back to his desk as the bell rang, a glare remaining on his face. What a bad personality. Who's that? Gojo asked. That's Kakin. He's my childhood friend. Midoriya spoke in a hushed tone as to not annoy Bakugo again. That guy is your friend? Well, we used to be friends, I think. Our relationship is complicated. The teacher walked in, signaling the start of class. Midoriya collected the fallen papers into a neat pile. You shouldn't let him push you around like that, Gojo said, floating above him. I know, but… Izuku-kun, do you have something you want to share with the rest of the class? The teacher asked. Midoriya shot up, shaking his head. No, sir, sorry. The other students laughed as he sat back down with a tomato-red face. Midoriya sighed, hefting his backpack over his shoulder. Finally, school is over. Maybe I'll get some of that kifuku Gojo-sen recommended. And then that's when I entered the room, completely. Gojo was cut off by a loud cry of protest, drawing both of their attention towards the side of the school building. Huh? Why are you crying? I thought you wanted to become a hero. Heroes don't cry, you know. Midoriya paled. That's Kakin's voice. Are they bullying someone? I have to stop them. But what can I do? Kakin is. He's so much stronger than me. Gojo watched as Midoriya froze in place, like a deer in headlights. I'm curious to see what he'll do. I want to help, but the fear. Midoriya swallowed. I can't help it. He began to run. Not away, but towards the scene. Kakin, he yelled as he skidded to a stop in front of them. Oh crap, there's 3 of them. Bakugo was holding a student by the collar, about to punch him in the face. Midoriya almost reeled at the sight of the poor boy's bruised and bloody face. He even had a few minor burn marks, definitely from Bakugo's quirk. Why did they go so far? What the hell do you want, Deku? Get out of here, unless you want to become my punching bag too. And don't you dare say a word to the teachers. I can't do that. Why are you hurting him? He didn't do anything to you. Heh, this brat thought that he could boss me around. He went up to me and said that I wasn't worthy of becoming a pro hero. Of course, as the future #1 hero, it's my job to punish liars. Midoriya nervously frowned. That kid is totally right though. Oh, time's up. I gave you a chance, but it's too late now, he said as his 2 goons grabbed Izuku's arms from behind. Hey, what are you doing? He was filled with an all too familiar fear as Bakugo approached him, hands smoking. As promised. Midoriya lost his ability to breathe for a moment as he suddenly received a punch to the gut. Hey, let me go at him too. Look at this loser. He's already crying. That night, Midoriya got home an hour late. He lied to Inko and assured her that he'd just fallen down the stairs at school. Sullenly, he dropped his backpack on the floor of his room and began to disinfect the wounds. So you sacrificed yourself to save that kid? I wouldn't say sacrificed, but… Midoriya applied the last bandage, eyes dark. I'm just glad he got away. Why? He was a stranger. It doesn't matter who he was. But I know that he tried to tell Kakin the right thing. He had more courage than I ever did. And you're okay with this? Of course I'm not. I want Kakin to stop. I want him to use his power for good. But I'm just not strong enough. Yet. He plopped down on his bed. I'm used to his antics. I know they're horrible. So one day, when I have enough courage, I'm going to make sure he never abuses his power again. Gojo gave him a hint of a smile. Just when he thought the man was about to say something heartfelt, he said, 7 out of 10. Midoriya lost his posture. Why are you rating my response? And why is it so low? He laughed. Not bad, Izuku. I'm just glad you stood up for that boy in the first place. It looks like you're better at that when it comes to other people rather than yourself. He leaned down. You're strong, Izuku. Even without my power. You just need to realize that. Midoriya gave him a small smile. Gojo-san. Straighten up, my pupil. Starting tomorrow, you'll receive strict jujutsu training from me. Midoriya stood up and saluted. Yes, Gojo-sensei. Satoru faltered for a moment at his response. Right after, Midoriya was called down for dinner, leaving the man alone in his room. Gojo. Sensei, huh? He smiled, remembering those 3. That sure brings back memories. Midoriya gaped at the mountains of trash. It seemed to stretch on forever from where he stood. You want me to clear out this entire beach? Gojo nodded. It'll serve as a decent warm-up. After all, we have to train your body physically first in order to take on even half of my power. A decent warm-up. But I teleported just fine yesterday. You barely managed to teleport, which is impressive by itself for someone who just received that power. But it was only for a very short distance, and you almost threw up afterwards. You also almost fell asleep from exhaustion. Remember, that means your mental and physical states are too weak to handle even one of the easiest techniques. Midoriya's sweat dropped, and I thought I was doing pretty well. He gazed at the heaps of trash. I mean, where do I even start? Good idea. How about that fridge over there? A fridge? I'm only 10 years old. There's no way it'll budge. Izuku spent the rest of his Saturday cleaning up piles of trash off the beach, preserving mostly because of the help and threats from Gojo. Welcome home, Izuku. Where were you all day? The gym? Inko asked jokingly as her son took his sneakers off, drenched in sweat. He laughed nervously. Yeah, something like that. What's for dinner? Curry rice. Ugh, I'm starving. I can't wait to take a shower and go to bed. I could collapse right here and fall asleep. He followed his mother to the dining room. Well, at least I have Sunday off. Oh, and Izuku, we're going back tomorrow, 6 and sharp. Every other weekend too. What? Inko jumped. Oh gosh, what's wrong, Izuku? You scared me half to death. He held his hands up. It's nothing. I stepped on something sharp. I'm fine though, he reassured her. Oh, well, make sure your foot is okay. It could have been glass. As she went to prepare the curry, Midoriya sighed. Gojo-sensei, what do you mean every weekend? I almost died just from today. I swear I saw the light on our way home. How will I survive if I have to do that every weekend? He hissed. Gojo chuckled. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. By next month, it'll be like a daily routine. I'll be dead by then. I'll be a ghost like you. Oh, stop fretting. You'll be fine. I picked you for a reason. I picked you for a reason. Midoriya flushed slightly, hesitating. Well, if you really think so. Izuku, honey, who are you talking to? Ah, no one, just myself. The following day, Midoriya left a note on the table, telling Inko that he was out for a morning jog. So, Gojo-sensei. He almost dropped the broken microwave on his feet, grunting when it nearly slipped out of his gloved hands. As a ghost, can you perform paranormal activity, like making things float or changing the radio? Yeah, exactly. Ha, unfortunately, I can't. Believe me, I've tried. But I might as well be plain old air. Satoru was quite bummed out because of that. He'd always thought that it would be fun to haunt random people and levitate their silverware or something. With a huff, Midoriya took a break and placed the microwave down. So you don't get hungry or have to use the bathroom or anything. Nope. That sounds like a boring life. You're probably thinking, that sounds like a boring life, right? Jay, how did he know? Is he a psychic too? I'm not a psychic, you're just pretty easy to read. He did it again. And, is that an insult? But, Gojo looked up at the bright morning sky, the same color as his eyes. After several days, Midoriya still wasn't quite used to them. You're right. It does get boring. It feels like I don't exist. He laughed. Which I don't, except to you. Izuku gazed at him. That's right. I can't believe I didn't realize it before. Gojo-sensei has been wandering around dimensions for who knows how long, looking for the right successor. He's probably lonely beyond my imagination. I can't believe he hasn't gone insane. You're really strong, Gojo-sensei. Yeah, I know. But where'd that come from? Never mind. I'm really glad I have you here to guide me. Gojo paused before smiling. You're weird. I like you, Izuku. You're like Yuuji, if he was more reserved. Who's Yuuji? That's a story for another time. 3 months later. Gojo-sensei was right. This is getting a little easier to bear, Midoriya thought to himself as he wiped some sweat off from his forehead. I'm impressed. You cleared out this much in just 4 months, Gojo said, surveying the clean section. Though it was small, it was still progress. It's thanks to your support, Gojo-sensei, he said, smiling. Hey, give yourself some credit. Most people would have given up by now. Midoriya blushed. That's not. Deku? He flinched, turning around slowly. There, a few meters away, stood none other than Bakugo Katsuki. Kakakin? What are you doing here? He was unresponsive at first. Then, slowly, the blonde began to walk forwards, taking quicker steps as he got closer. All Midoriya could manage was a single frightened step back. Bakugo grabbed his shirt collar, furious red eyes meeting scared green ones. That's my line, damn Deku. What the hell are you doing? Fixing up this dump. You think you can become a hero just by putting on some measly muscle. And no, don't lie to me. Midoriya flinched as the blonde snapped. He began to feel a familiar heat creep up his neck. Kaken's quirk. I'll tell you what. He shoved Izuku down, and he landed on his knees, the coarse sand grinding into his skin. It's been a while since you've had a proper beating. No, please. The fear began to consume him, from head to toe, and his mind abandoned all logical thought. You need a real lesson, because it looks like you're still being persistent. Izuku was met with a solid kick to the gut, and he fell to his hands and knees, one hand hovering over his wounded stomach. His eyes widened as he stared at the grubby sand below him. I can't breathe. It hurts. Listen up, Deku. Bakugo grabbed a fistful of his hair, forcing him to look up and meet his demeaning gaze. Quirkless losers can't become heroes. Midoriya's face was suddenly on the ground, his left cheek burning with pain. Oh, he punched me. The punch was followed by a ruthless barrage of kicks to his stomach, to the point where he felt like his lungs were horribly bruised because of how difficult it was to breathe. He felt more powerless than he ever had in his life, only being able to curl up and place his hands over his head to protect himself. Stop. Please stop. I don't want Gojo-sensei to see this. I don't know which fucking idiot told you that you could actually become a hero, but they're dead wrong. You're quirkless, powerless, someone like you. He angrily threw Izuku down on the ground, stomping mercilessly on his battered body. Someone like you can't even dream about becoming a hero. Finally, Midoriya couldn't hold it in anymore, and tears began to stream down his face. Stop. Please stop, Kaken. He begged so quietly that the blonde had hardly heard him. Bakugo sneered, leaning down and cupping his hand over his ear. Huh? What was that? I couldn't quite hear you. Bakugo suddenly stiffened, feeling an ominous presence. He whipped around, scanning the junkyard. Who's there? There was no response, but he still felt some sort of murderous intent fixated on him. And it wasn't Midoriya. His face was buried in the ground, anyway. He growled, forgetting about the other boy's nearly unconscious body. Come out, you coward. I know you're there. All of a sudden, the sinister feeling disappeared, and Bakugo paused before narrowing his eyes. Did I imagine it? He almost yelped when a hand wrapped around his ankle, and sighed in relief when he saw that it was just Midoriya. The relief quickly turned into annoyance, which turned into anger. Get your damn hand off of me, nerd. I'm done with you for today. He shook his leg, cursing when he didn't let go. Let go of me, Deku. Slowly, his grip loosened. Bakugo grunted, shoving his hands in his pockets. Just as he turned around to walk away, he heard a shuffling noise behind him. Is he still conscious? He turned around to see Midoriya pushing himself up, his head hanging low. At his sides, his fists were clenched so tightly to the point where Bakugo could see some blood appearing. And, for some reason, he didn't quite seem like Midoriya. He didn't want to admit it, and he never would, but Bakugo felt almost scared. Me, scared of Deku. That's hilarious. He's just a quirkless loser. He pulled his hands out of his pockets. Ha, what's this? You want to go for round 2, Deku? But when the boy lifted his head, Bakugo stilled, eyes wide. Instead of the familiar shade of emerald green, Izuku's eyes were a startlingly pure blue, like aquamarine crystals. And they were looking at him as if he were no more than an annoying fly, with a trace of hate. I won't allow it. I won't allow this piece of crap look at me the same way I should be looking at him. What the hell, Deku? You got some useless eye-color changing quirk or something? He asked with a smirk, keeping his poker face up. Yeah, that's all it is. Deku ended up having a quirk after all. But it's so stupid and puny that he might as well not even have one. That's it. But the boy, who was always so nervous and fidgety in front of Bakugo, completely ignored him when he spoke. He ignored him, staring at his hands instead with a relatively quiet gaze that didn't belong on Izuku's face. As if the trivial lines on his palms were more interesting, more important than Bakugo. Something erupted in his gut, and he scowled, inciting an impressive explosion from his hands. Answer me, you bastard! Finally, Midoriya, he is Deku, right? Looked up, and the calm chill in those foreign blue eyes stirred up some instinct buried deep inside of Bakugo. Run. He glowered. Fuck that. I'm not running from Deku of all people. I'm above him. I'm the superior one. I'm stronger than him. So why? Why can't I move? He was unfamiliar with the concept of fear. The overwhelming feeling of having someone so immeasurably stronger than him standing right there, bloodlust pouring out like a waterfall. Still, Bakugo managed a nervous laugh, taking a small step forwards. You seem pretty gutsy all of a sudden. Calm down. He's still Deku, the quirkless crybaby. Why don't you come over here and... His eyes widened when Izuku suddenly disappeared. Where did he go? He whipped around. Behind me. Just as he turned around, something was shoved up against his throat, and he felt his feet lift off of the ground. Something's choking me. Why can't I breathe? He forced himself to look down, stunned when he saw Izuku standing below him. A single hand wrapped around Bakugo's throat as those cold cerulean eyes stared into his wide red ones. Where the hell? He coughed, struggling to speak. Where the hell did that come from? Deku. Was he lying about being quirkless the whole time? No, that doesn't make sense. Even as he was thinking, Bakugo could feel his consciousness and rationality slipping away, turning into pure fury instead. He lied. He struggled to free himself from the iron grip, eyes furious and unfocused like a wild animal. You tricked us, damn it. You had a quirk all along, Deku. He gasped for air when Midoriya finally released him, coughing on his hands and knees on the ground. I have to get up. He flinched when he felt his body being shoved over, and he was suddenly sprawled out and facing the morning sky. He got a few more seconds to breathe before Midoriya kneeled down, pressing his throat to the ground. No matter how much the blonde pried and kicked and burnt his hand, he didn't even budge. Not even a hint of pain showed in his icy eyes. And worst of all, it looked like he was exerting no effort at all. Like Bakugo was just a boring side errand. And then he finally spoke. I'll say this to you once, just to be clear, but I'm not Izuku. His eyes widened. What? The green-haired boy's voice sounded smoother than usual, like a teacher instructing his students. Any traces of his usual nervousness and stuttering were gone. My name is Gojo Satoru. Remember it, Katsuki. The next day, Bakugo didn't show up to class. Or the day after that, or the day after that. Midoriya, despite his relationship with him, was starting to get worried. What happened to him? Flashback. After the fight between Gojo and Bakugo, Midoriya shot up with a frenzied look in his eyes. It took a couple seconds for him to calm down and realize where exactly he was. What? This is my room. When did I get here? Wasn't I? His eyes widened as memories flooded his head. Wasn't I just with Kaken? How much do you remember, Izuku? He looked across the room and saw Gojo leaning against the wall, eyes slightly dark. Gojo-sensei, how did I get here? What happened? The green-haired boy's face grew a bit red and bitter. Did he see? After that, there's no way he thinks I'm still worthy. That Katsuki kid really did a number on you. How do you feel? Satoru felt a bit relieved at the lack of reaction. Good, at least he doesn't remember being possessed. That would have been a hassle. He flexed his hands before giving the man a reassuring smile. A bit bruised, maybe, but nothing I'm not used to. I'll be fine. That was a lie. To be honest, he felt like Bakugo was socking him in the gut with every breath he took, and his mind was replaying the blonde's harsh words over and over again, like a torturous taunt. But he wasn't about to admit that, especially not to Gojo. I've put up with it for almost 7 years now. I can go a few more. By the time I've mastered this power, I'll be strong enough to stand up for myself. With those words, Satoru felt a slight pang. But nothing I'm not used to. He was only 11, for God's sake. He shouldn't have to be used to it. He shouldn't have to take a beating and follow it up with a clearly fake smile and say, I'll be fine. So how did I get back here anyway, Gojo-sensei? After you fainted, one of your neighbors found you and brought you back. He already left though. And your mom is out buying groceries. She doesn't know you're home. In actuality, Gojo had walked home before Izuku's body collapsed from exhaustion on the bed, and he was forced out. It's a good thing I landed on the bed instead of the floor. Oh, I'll have to thank him later. Who was it? No idea. I didn't really get a good view of him. And Gojo mumbled something afterwards that Midoriya didn't quite catch. What was that? I'm sorry, Izuku. With those words, Midoriya suddenly remembered his mother crying and hugging him so long ago, saying, I'm so sorry, Izuku. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. To him over and over again, even though she wasn't at fault at all. Why? It wasn't your fault. I should apologize, if anything. for being such a weak and cowardly successor. You know, I just thought that if I wasn't a ghost, I could have stopped him. And if I'd just taken action earlier instead of hesitating, you would have been left unscathed. Midoriya just laughed his usual, "It's fine, no worries" laugh, as if he weren't carrying the weight of the world. There are some things in this world that we can't change, no matter how much we want them to. Instead of dwelling over what's already done, we should focus on what's already happening and what's bound to happen. Gojo let himself smile a bit. I guess you're right. I mean, hey, I'm the elder here. I'm supposed to be giving you wise advice, not the other way around. After a moment, the two of them began to laugh, although Midoriya's chest admittedly hurt with every chuckle. 4 days passed, and Bakugo Katsuki finally summoned the courage to go back to school. And if he didn't, his mother would murder him. But he couldn't help the strange, dark feeling bubbling up in him as he walked to school. I'm not scared of Deku. I'm not scared of him. I'm just wary of whatever possessed him, he convinced himself. But not scared. I'll just ignore him for the rest of the school year. I won't make eye contact with him. I won't acknowledge him. He doesn't deserve to be acknowledged anyway. He doesn't deserve to. The smell of something burning filled the air, and Bakugo realized that he'd been holding his bag just a little too tightly. When he entered the classroom, covered in band-aids and a scarf around his throat, the class erupted with comments and whispers. Whoa, what happened to you, Bakugo? You get into a fight with a high schooler. I've never seen him hurt before. Why's he glaring at us? Was it some low-time villain? Why are you wearing a scarf? It's spring. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Midoriya flinch and look away as he took his seat. Yeah, he finally muttered. It was a villain. Did Kaken actually fight a real villain in these past 4 days? That's amazing. No wonder he's all beat up, Midoriya thought to himself as class started. He heard some of the students murmur amongst themselves. Did you hear that? Bakugo fought a villain. With his quirk, he probably won. I wish I was born with his quirk. He's so cool. He hasn't glared at me even once yet. Why? Does it have something to do with our fight? He glumly remembered that it hadn't been much of a fight and more of a one-sided beatdown. But it's fine, because I'm getting stronger now. Back then, all I could do was dream and take the hits. I've made progress. I'm so glad Gojo-sensei chose me. Oi, Izuku, pay attention. I'll abandon you if you fail class, Gojo said jokingly. Midoriya straightened in his seat. Ah, yes, sir. His face turned tomato red when the students and teacher looked at him confusedly. He knew something was wrong when 2 whole weeks passed and Bakugo didn't yell or even look in his direction even once. And if I try to ask him about it, he'll beat me up again, Midoriya confessed to Gojo. Well, I can't exactly tell him that I possessed his body and scared the shit out of Katsuki. He's probably just used to you. Used to me? Yeah. Like, you know how kids throw away an old toy after it's not fun anymore? It's probably like that. Gojo's sweat dropped. Don't take this badly, Izuku. The boy deadpanned. Ah, so I'm like a worn-out toy to him. Yeah, that's probably it. It can't be that fun beating up and bossing around some quirkless kid. After all, I basically just retired. Whoa, he's gullible. I might talk to him though. Huh? Why? I can't risk Izuku finding out what really happened. Probably not anytime soon, but... The boy smiled. I want him to know that I'm not the same quirkless kid anymore. I have to tell Mom, too. It's not fair to keep her in the dark. But for that to happen, I have to get stronger first. Strong enough to defeat Kaken. The kid can make explosion, right? Believe me, once you get a hang of my power, he'll be like an ant. An ant? Ah. To this day, I'm still not sure why Gojo-sensei picked me. But I want to make him proud.